everyone and welcome to this new video on Avalonia UI. Today we'll see how to create a simple sidebar menu that will allow us to navigate the pages in our application in a compact and easy way. To do that, we'll use Avalonia's SplitView control, which presents a container with two parts, the main content zone and a side pane. The main content zone is always visible and contains the desired page, while the pane displays the menu and can be expanded and collapsed. The collapsed pane can be completely hidden or left slightly open with enough space to host some icon buttons. Okay, no more chit-chatting and let's see some code. Alright, so let's go back to where we left last time. Let's get rid of anything inside the main window and replace it with a split view. A split view, we said, is composed by a pane and a content. So split view dot pane, we'll fill it later, and split view dot content. Cool. Now let's show something up like a text. Like this is a pane, and here we have content. All right, we can see the content. We can't see the pane. That's because we need to tweak it a bit. First thing we need to set is the property is pane open. Let's set it to true. Okay, and you can see that it's already open. We've got the open pane length. Yes, we can set it to, I don't know, 200 or 300. The display mode, we want it to be compact and inline. You can see that if we change this pane open attribute, it closes the pane panel, and we also need to set compact pane length, which can be something like 48. Just a space to have a button, to host a button. And if we open it, now let's give it some background color. We might want to have the background set to, it was 1E, 1E, 1E. And we want to have the pane background set to 1E, 1E, 1E as well. And I will explain you later why we want to have the background of the same color. Let's go with a black color for now. All right, so we have we can differentiate between them. Cool. Now that we got the pane and the content, we can tweak. Let's start by tweaking the pane. Here we'll have a button with, yeah, this will be the toggle to open and close the pane. We will also have a list box, so two elements, and that's why we will need a stack panel. Yes, with a button and a list box. Let's put some test items. List box item, can go with item, that's all. Oops, again. All right, we've got our items, button. Let's tweak the spacing between them. We can go with, let's see, maybe some spacing. 5. We might want to have maybe some margin. 5, like this. Yeah, should work. And we can see that everything is kind of working. The button it's not interacting with the split view. As we saw in the last video, we can leverage the MVVM pattern, and therefore there's a view model for the main window, which is this one. We only have, okay, no, we don't need this anymore. What we need now is, okay, so what we know is that opening and closing the pane is regulated by this is pane open property. So if we start by creating a binding on this property, we can bind it to a property called is pane open, for instance. Now in the view model we can create the property, but if you remember, by using the community toolkit, we just need to declare a private field and then decorate it with the observable property attributes. So this is a boolean. This is going to be a boolean. Let's follow some naming convention. So lowercase is pane open. Let's start with the pane open, and let's decorate it with the observable property. It's a partial class, all good. And the binding now should work. Let's see. Let's rebuild so that the preview updates itself. And all right, now that we got the binding in place, we need a way to change this property. And we can do it by binding a command to this button. So the toggle button. There we go, command, binding. The command can be called trigger pane command. Let's get a command. The view model. This is going to be a relay command. And it's going to be called trigger. What was it? Trigger pane. Trigger pane, and that's all. Because the trigger pane command is going to be automatically generated. So when the button is clicked, we can set the property, this time is pane open, to the opposite, so is pane open. Let's see if it works. Let's build. Something is going on with the preview, but we can see that this is working. Right. You can't really see it, but there is a button here and the colors are a bit mismatched. Not really sure why. Let me see if I can fix it. All right, something was going on with Rider, so I had to restart it. And I also had to set the requested theme variant inside the app.xaml file directly to dark. And this seems to have solved the preview issue. So you can see the button here, which opens and closes the pane. Here we go. Now, last thing to do. All right, let's fix the content color. We've got background and pane background in the split view set to the same color. And that's because we are going to put a border in the content. And the content of the border will have a different color. So let's go inside the split view content, add a border. Let's put a corner radius of, let's see, 12 maybe. Top left 12, the rest set to 0. And let's set the background color to 2D. And here we have our nice round corner. Now we'll use a transitioning content control to dynamically set the split view content. The control also comes with some built-in transition animations. It also allows us to create a binding for the content. Now let's go to the main view model and create a new observable property, which will represent the current displayed page. This will be a view model base type, so that we can associate any model inheriting from it. All right, now in order to see it at work, let's create a new page model. This will be the home page, and we can associate it to the home page item in the list box. Make sure you use the right naming convention so that it will work with the view locator, which means that we need to set the model name as view model and the view has view. So now let's create view, and always remember the name should be name of the page with the suffix view. And let's set the current page to the home page view model. And don't forget to let the home page view model inherit from the view model base. You can see that the page is not found. And that's because probably we need to reload the application. It's very important to follow the naming conventions because we have a view locator, as you can see, which will look for the view based on the view model name. So if the model name is called homepage view model, the view needs to be called homepage view. And this is how we can look for the view starting from the view model. Now let's reload the application to see the results. And here we go. You can see that the homepage is currently loaded in the content of the split view. Cool. Now that we created the binding with the transition in content control, let's see how we can navigate to different pages by clicking on each list box item. To do that, we need to leverage the possibility to bind the list box to an items collection. The collection can be of any type, as long as each data item contains enough information for us to determine which page needs to be loaded. Let's proceed by creating a list item template class. This class will have, for now, will have two properties. One is the label that needs to be presented in the actual list, and the other one will be the model type. Then let's make sure that when we create this item template, we pass a type as an input parameter, and we will use this type to infer first the type of the view model that we need to instantiate so that we can navigate to it, and then the label that we need to show in the UI. Don't forget to remove page view model from the name so that the name of the page will be more clear in the UI. Cool. Now we need to replace the hard-coded items with something more dynamic, and we can do this by using the listbox item template. The item template, as you can see, allows us to define a template that gathers all the information from a data type, and we can use those informations from the data type as an actual view model for the listbox item. Let's define the UI of each listbox item. Remember that it will be an icon plus the label, but for now we'll just use the label. Now let's add some spacing and define the orientation. Let's define the text box that will contain the label. The value of the label will be taken from the list item template that we defined before. And finally, let's create binding. Now let's build the solution. And at the moment we can see that nothing is displayed. That's because we need to define a collection of items that we can then bind to the whole list box as a source of data. Now let's go back to the view model and define this new property, which will be an observable collection. And the collection will be of list item templates. Let's start by adding the only page that we created, which is the on-page view model. Remember that we need to pass the type and not the class itself. And then from the type, we can infer the name. Now let's create a binding to the items for the item source in the list box. Let's rebuild and see what happens. We can see that now the home page, the only item that we have in the list, is showing up. Now let's add another example page. This can be a buttons containers, for example. Don't forget to inherit from the view model base. Let's create a view, making sure we align with the naming conventions. Let's put some contents. Let's put some content in the home page as well. And now let's add the new page, so the new view model for the buttons page, to the observable collection. Let's rebuild the solution and see the result. All right, we can see that a new item is displayed in the list, the button one, and we can click them. Unfortunately, even if we click on the items, nothing is changing in the content of the split panel. Sorry, the split view. And that's because we need a way to automatically react when we select a new item. So we need a way to keep track of what we select, and we can do this by having a new observable property called selected list item. We can then use this new property and create a binding for the list box selected item, which is an attribute that we can find in the list box control. Cool, now we have the binding, but we're still missing the mechanism that it's updating the content of the split view whenever we select a new item. How do we do this? We can achieve what we need by leveraging something coming from the observable property. The observable property, whenever you declare an observable property, there is a non-selected list item changed method that is auto-generated, and we can override its behavior by defining our own partial method. The method will accept a list item template, and don't forget to observe the naming convention. Yeah, you can see that it's on the name of the property and then changed. So whenever we click on an item, this method will be called and they will pass us the value. So the first thing that we need to do is to check that the value is not null. Then we create an instance using the activator and the model type passed inside the value. Check that the instance is not null. And after that, finally, we can set the current page to the new instance of the new model. All right, now let's test the application. And the toggle button is working. And we can see that the content of the split view gets updated properly. All right, we mentioned before that we are going to add some icons to the list box items. And to do that, the first thing we need to do is to declare an Avalonia styles file. Let's name it icons. Let's delete everything. Add a new style. Then add a tag called style.resources. And here is where we will add our icons. And to do that, we can refer to the icons page on the Avalonia repository, where we can find some string geometries that we can copy paste. So now let's look for line horizontal 3. Let's copy the code for this string geometry and paste it inside the style.resources tag. Rename the key. Now let's go back to the main window and replace the dash inside that toggle button with a path icon element. The path icon element has a data property where we can define a static resource by pointing to the key that we defined before. Now the key is underlined in yellow, which means that we cannot find it. And that's because before we can use it, we need to add the new style in the app XAML under the application.styles element. This way the new style will be included using a style include attribute and binding the new XAML that we created to the source of this element. Let's rebuild the application to make sure everything is included. And now we can see that the line, that the icon is properly displayed in the toggle button. Now let's add some more icons. Let's go back to the icons page, look for a proper icon for the home page. Let's copy the string geometry code and paste it inside the icons style XAML. Let's go back to the icons page and look for our final icon, which is the one for the buttons page. Let's look for cursor hover regular, copy the string geometry code again and paste it inside the style resources file. And the last thing we need to do now is to find a way to dynamically load those icons that are inside our resources and get them displayed on every list box item. To do that, we can leverage the list item template we created before. So the first thing is to create a new property called list item icon. And now to initialize it, we need to look for the icon, the string geometry that we need inside the resources. And to do that, one way to do that is to use the application instance and the try find resource. The try find resource accepts a key, a string which is a key. We can pass this key in the list item template constructor. So each element will have its own key. Pass the key to the try find resource and put the result inside a res out variable. If the key is found, we get back an object, which is our string geometry. Once we get the result back, we can just cast the res variable to a string geometry and assign it to the list item icon. Finally, what we need to do is to take note of the key we defined for each icon and pass it inside the observable collection in the constructor of the list item templates. Let's rebuild the application and don't forget to add the icon inside the UI. We can add the icon by using the path icon, but this time create a binding between the list item icon property that we created and the data attribute of the path icon. We can see that the preview is already showing the new icons and everything is working properly. Let's just quickly improve the content of the two pages. Starting from the home page, we can add a simple text block. We can add some margin. Let's enable the preview box, better define the margins, add some text, and let's do the same with the buttons page by copy pasting the text block and replacing the text. Let's enable the preview just to check. And let's start again the application to make sure everything is still running properly. Yes, all looking good. Alright, we reached the end of the video, and after a couple of refinements, the navigation bar looks pretty and does the job perfectly. That's all for now. We'll see you in the next videos for more content on Avalonia UI.